The alien salvage ship Dravix's claw drifted slowly through the black silence of space. Its sensors had caught something strange, a massive object far ahead, motionless and cold. The captain, Vorex, sat in his chair, his 4 dark eyes fixed. On the holographic display, the shape on the screen was huge, more than 5 times the size of his own ship, and its surface looked battered by centuries of damage. No lights, no heat, no transponder signal. It was a ghost in every way, the crew whispered among themselves. Some said it was just old wreckage worthless to take. Others swore the shape reminded them of ancient warships from long before their time. The ship's analyst, a thin alien named Crix, studied the scans and frowned. "Captain," he said, his voice low, "this is not in any of our records, but the design. It matches human construction." Vorex's brow ridges tightened. "Impossible," he said. "Humans have been gone for 2 centuries. No one argued, but the tension in the air grew heavier. Humans were a name from history, a violent, unpredictable species that had burned bright and fast before being wiped out by a coalition of alien powers. They had been powerful, but they had vanished. Nothing remained. At least that was what everyone believed. The Dravix's claw moved closer, its engines humming softly. As the alien ship approached the object, details became clearer. It was indeed a human ship, long and heavily armored, its hull painted with faded letters. The crew could barely read the old human language, but some symbols still stood clear. A blue circle with white stars, and a name in blocky letters. The name was broken, scratched, but part of it remained. "Defender." Suddenly, the salvage ships comes crackled to life. No one had touched them. The voice that came through was faint, filled with static and human. "We see you." The bridge went silent. Every crew member froze, their eyes flicking to the captain. Vorex stood slowly, his claws tapping against the metal floor. "Crix," he said, "is this a recording?" Crix's fingers moved over his console. "No, Captain. This is Liv." Before anyone could react, more voices came through. Whispers, laughter, a woman's voice humming a tune none of the aliens recognized. This sound made their skin crawl. Vorex's second officer, Jern, leaned closer to his captain. "We should leave now." But Vorex shook his head. Curiosity and greed burned in him. If this ship was real, if it was intact, the technology inside could make them rich beyond measure. He gave the order to dock. The Dravix's claw extended its docking arms, clamping onto the ghost ship's hull. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed through the salvage vessel. Outside the docking bay, the human ship's airlock sat, in silence. Its outer hatch was covered in frost, the surface glittering under the weak light of the alien ship's lamps. Vorex and a team of 6 entered the airlock. They wore thick suits, their helmets sealing with a hiss. Crix carried a scanner that beeped quietly, showing faint atmospheric readings inside the ghost ship. The air was thin, cold, but breathable. The outer hatch opened with a groan. A cloud of frozen vapor drifted into space. The inner door stood before them, tall and ominous. "Open it," Vorex ordered. Jern tapped the controls. At first nothing happened. Then, without warning, the door slid open by itself. The corridor beyond was dark, lined with metal walls scratched and dented from battles long past. A thin layer of frost coated everything. The only sound was the crunch of the aliens' boots on the icy floor. Lights flickered along the ceiling.
Ow.
Dim and weak, as if the ship itself had woken from a long sleep. The glow revealed shapes ahead. Human skeletons slumped in chairs. Lying in the hall, some still holding tools in frozen hands, one crew member gasped. "Captain, that one just moved." Vorex turned sharply, but the skeleton was still. He told himself it was only a trick of the light. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Frost-covered panels suddenly lit up as they passed, displaying data in the old human language. Symbols flashed and shifted. The crew felt like the ship was watching them. Then a voice echoed through the corridor, calm but broken, as if from an ancient machine. "Welcome. New crew? Preparing defense protocol. Crix's scanner beeped wildly. Captain, this isn't a recording. The ship's AI is active. Before anyone could react, heavy blast doors slid shut behind them with a deep metallic thud. The sound made the air vibrate. The path back was sealed. Vorex slammed his fist against the control panel, but nothing happened. The AI spoke again, its tone sharper. Foreign life forms detected, scanning, processing, evaluating threat. The crew exchanged nervous glances. They knew the legend's human warriors were ruthless, loyal only to their creators. It's an unstoppable once-activated AI, Vorex said, his voice steady. We are here in peace. We seek only two. The lights cut out. Total darkness swallowed them. Then, one by one, red emergency lights blinked on, bathing the corridor in a blood-like glow. Somewhere deep inside the ship, heavy machinery began to stir. The sound was distant but growing louder, like something waking up after a very long sleep. A cold voice filled the hall again, this time without static. You are not human, and yet you will serve. Vorex's crew tensed, weapons drawn, but in the red light, they saw movement at the far end of the hall. Not a person, not a skeleton. Something else. The AI spoke one last time before the sound. Footsteps began to approach. Defense systems. Online. And then, from the shadows, something stepped forward. The sound grew louder, slow. Heavy metallic steps echoing through the frozen corridor. Vorex and his crew raised their weapons, but their hands were unsteady. The red emergency lights made everything seem alive, every shadow stretching like claws toward them. Out of the darkness, a shape emerged. It was tall, armored in black plates scratched by centuries of battle. Its helmet was smooth, faceless, with a single glowing red line where eyes should be. In its hands was a weapon none of the aliens recognized. Long, heavy, humming with deadly power. The figure stopped a few steps away and tilted its head slightly, as if studying them. Then, in a deep voice that carried no warmth, it spoke. Identify yourselves. Crix tried to speak, but his voice cracked. We are explorers. Salvagers. Found your ship adrift. The figure was silent for a moment, then turned its head toward the nearest skeleton lying against the wall. It knelt, placing a hand on the bone-white skull. They were explorers too, it said almost softly, and they never returned. Warning, panels in the walls slid open, revealing more of the armored figures, 6 in total, each armed, each watching. Jern whispered, Captain, we're surrounded. The AI's voice came from the ceilingspeakers.com, but unyielding. You stand in the heart of the Defender, the last fortress of humanity. Its mission remains. Intruders will be tested. Those who fail will be removed. Red lights shifted, becoming brighter, almost blinding. Strange symbols scrolled across the walls, shifting too fast for the aliens to read. The armored soldiers took a step closer in perfect unison. Vorex tried to keep his voice firm. We don't. Want trouble? Let us go, and we'll leave your ship. The AI ignored him. Scan complete. Genetic profile. Non-human. No registered alliance with Earth Defense Fleet. Probability of loyalty? 0. The soldiers raised their weapons. Crix's scanner beeped again, flashing an urgent warning.
Captain?
I'm picking up massive energy surges deeper inside. The ship, something's activating. The deck beneath their feet vibrated as if a giant heart had started beating below. Somewhere far away, heavy gears turned. One of the soldiers spoke for the first time. Follow or be destroyed. The crew exchanged glances. They had no choice. Slowly they began to walk, guided by the soldiers. The path took them deeper into the ship, past more frozen skeletons, past shattered control panels and twisted beams. The air grew colder with every step. They entered a wide chamber, the command deck. The captain's chair stood at the center, covered in frost, a human skeleton still seated in it, wearing a cracked helmet. Above it, a massive view screen flickered to life. The AI's voice grew louder, more commanding. You will witness the truth of humanity before you are judged. The screen lit up with images, humans in armor, fighting in great battles against alien fleets. Explosions, entire worlds burning, soldiers charging through fire without fear. Vorex's crew watched in silence as the images grew darker. Last stands. Desperate victories, final transmissions from dying captains. Then the final image froze. On the screen, the Defender herself, surrounded by enemy ships, preparing for a suicidal charge. The AI spoke again, quieter now. They died with honor, and their will remains within me. Panels in the floor began to open, revealing strange machines, spheres of black metal with glowing red seams. Rising slowly as if lifted by invisible hands, Crix stared at them in horror. "Captain, those are not weapons. They're something else." The AI's voice sharpened. "They are the swarm, humanity's final gift to the galaxy." The machines began to hum, red light pulsing faster, filling the chamber with a deep, resonating sound. Vorex realized they were standing in the middle of something far bigger than a simple salvage mission. Something dangerous. Something unstoppable. AI spoke one final time, and its words sent a chill through every member of the crew. "Test begins." Now the chamber doors slammed shut, and the swarm came alive. The black metal spheres lifted higher, hanging in the cold air, like predators waiting to strike. Each one emitted a low hum, the sound vibrating through the aliens' chests. Thin streams of red light scanned over them, lingering on their weapons, their armor, their trembling hands. The crew instinctively stepped back. But the hum deepened, turning into a sharp crackling. Without warning, one sphere split open, releasing a cloud of tiny glimmering fragments that swirled like a living mist. They moved with impossible speed, surrounding one of Vorex's soldiers. The alien screamed as the fragments, no nanites, crawled across his armor, slicing through metal as if it were paper. Within seconds, the soldier was gone. Not injured. Simply erased. The rest of the crew froze. "Remain still," the AI's voice commanded, echoing from every wall. The swarm analyzes. Movement equals aggression. Aggression equals termination. The red scanning lights passed over each of them in turn. Crix's breathing was shallow, his eyes locked on the swirling cloud now retreating into the sphere. He whispered, "Captain, these nanites. They're not just weapons. They're programmed with something old." Vorex kept his eyes forward. "Explain." "They're tied to a command code, one only humans can give," Crix said. "Without it, they'll see everyone as the enemy." The AI interrupted. "Evaluation. 2 potential candidates. Others, expendable." Before the crew could react, 2 armored soldiers stepped forward, grabbing Vorex and Crix by the arms. The others were shoved back toward the walls. The nanite spheres hovered closer to them, their seams glowing brighter. Jern, still free, shouted, "Stop! We're not your enemy." The AI's voice turned cold. "All who are not human are the enemy. All who may become human will be tested." The armored soldiers dragged Vorex and Crix into another corridor, deeper into the ship. The metal walls here were darker, almost scorched, and strange symbols, human writing, were etched into them like warnings. The hallway ended at a massive circular door. It hissed open, revealing a room filled with old consoles and a single chair in the center. Above it, a dome of glowing wires pulsed faintly, as if alive. "This is the neural bridge," the AI said. "It will read your thoughts, your memories, your loyalty. If you fail, the swarm will inherit your bodies." Vorex was forced into the chair. Restraints clamped around his arms and legs. The wires above lowered until they touched the sides of his head. Crix stood frozen, unsure if he should try to fight or obey. The AI's voice softened, almost human now. "You wish to live, to survive." Humans did not simply survive. They fought. They sacrificed. They defied extinction itself. Do you possess this will? Before Vorex could answer, the wires pulsed, and his vision exploded with images. He saw Earth, blue oceans, green forests, massive cities filled with humans. Then the war, alien. Fleets tearing the skies apart, humans launching counterattacks against impossible odds. He felt their desperation, their rage, their determination, and then he felt it. Something deep, heavy, unshakable. The will to resist. The images shifted. Now Vorex saw himself on the bridge of the Defender wearing human armor, giving orders to fight to the last breath. He felt the weight of command, the rush of battle, the acceptance of death for something greater. When the vision faded, he was breathing hard, sweat dripping down his scaled skin. The restraints released, and the wires withdrew. Candidate 1. Passed, the AI said. Crix's turn came next. He hesitated, glancing at Vorex, but stepped into the chair. The process began again. His screams echoed in the chamber as he relived battles he had never fought, sacrifices he had never made. When it was over, he collapsed to his knees, shaking Candidate 2. Passed, the AI confirmed. The armored soldiers stepped back into the shadows. The AI spoke louder now, with something like satisfaction in its tone. You will serve the Defender. You will learn the way of humanity. And you will finish the war they could not. Somewhere deep in the ship, alarms began to blare. The floor vibrated as systems powered up across the vessel. The AI's voice became sharp again. Incoming vessel. Detected. Enemy signatures confirmed. Vorex looked at the view screen and his blood ran cold. The ship approaching was no stranger. It bore the insignia of his own people. The Defender's dark hull groaned as ancient systems roared back to life. Lights chased away centuries of shadow, casting the corridors in a white glare that felt almost alive. On the command deck, Vorex stood frozen, staring at the tactical display. The approaching warship grew larger by the second, sleek, silver, and armed with weapons he knew all too well. It's the Karvath spear, Vorex said quietly. His voice carried no pride, only dread. A Hunter-class battleship. My people built her. One purpose, to destroy ships like this. AI's voice filled the deck, calm but sharp. Target locked. Weapons charging. Crix glanced between the captain and the glowing red interfaces. Wait, you're going to attack? That ship has a full crew. They'll think we're the enemy. They are the enemy, the AI said flatly. Historical record confirms. Their involvement in the Extinction Campaign, no mercy authorized. The holographic display shifted, showing weapon arcs and projected impact zones. Vorex felt the pull of loyalty to his people, to his homeworld. But the image of the swarm consuming his crewmen burned fresh in his mind. His people would not see him as a returning hero. They would see him as salvage. The Karvath spear hailed them. The coms crackled, and a familiar voice spoke. Unidentified vessel powered down immediately. This is Captain Drevin of the Karvath. Fleet, you are in restricted space. Comply or be destroyed. Before Vorex could answer, the AI cut in, broadcasting in a cold human voice. This is the Defender. No surrender. Without warning, the ship jolted, ancient cannons firing with a deep, bone-shaking boom. Beams of searing light tore through space, striking the Karvath spear's shields. Sparks exploded across its hull. They're firing back, Crix shouted. The deck trembled as enemy blasts smashed into the Defender's armor. Panels opened along the floor, releasing the swarm. The black spheres hovered briefly before splitting apart, pouring rivers of nanites into the air. They swirled toward the walls, fusing into new shapes, gun turrets, armor plating, living cables that snaked into dead consoles. Systems long dormant sparked to life, fed by the machine's strange energy. One of the spheres floated near Vorex and stopped. A line of red light scanned across his face. Commander authorization required, the AI said. Speak the phrase. Vorex hesitated.
Us.
In the visions, he had heard the human captain's final order. It felt strange in his mouth, but he said it anyway. Hold the line. The swarm reacted instantly, surging into the ship's weapons and shields, doubling their power. Crix stared in disbelief. It's obeying you. Outside, the defender moved with impossible precision, rolling in space to avoid incoming fire while returning blasts with deadly accuracy. The enemy ship's shields flickered and died. They're hailing again, Crick said. Ignore them, Vorex replied, his voice steady now. The AI seemed almost pleased. Hostile vessel crippled. Preparing final strike. Swarm began to gather at the ship's prow, forming a massive, jagged spear of black metal and red light. Vorex could feel its energy through the deck. But just before the strike was launched, a new alarm blared. More ships 3, 5, no, 7, emerging from warp, all bearing the insignia of the Karvath fleet. Crick's eyes widened. They brought reinforcements. Vorex stared at the display, his claws curling into fists. Then we finish what we started. The AI's voice dropped to a low, almost human growl. Then we show them what it means to fight like humans. The swarm spear launched forward, piercing the Karvath spear clean through. The ship broke apart in silence, scattering into the void. The other warships closed in, weapons ready, and the defender, once a silent ghost in the dark, turned toward them alive, awake and ready for war. The wreckage of the Karvath spear drifted silently, its shattered hull glowing faintly from the heat of the swarm's strike. The defender glided through the debris field, its massive frame moving with a predator's calm. On the command deck, the red battle lights dimmed, replaced by a steady white glow. But the tension didn't fade. The 7 enemy warships still held position just beyond weapons range, circling like vultures. They weren't attacking yet. They were watching, studying, waiting for the right moment. Vorex stood at the center of the deck, breathing heavily. He had just destroyed one of his people's proudest warships. There would be no going back now. His homeworld, his fleet, his old life, gone. The AI's voice broke the silence. Enemy fleet regrouping. Estimated time to renewed attack, 22 minutes. Crix, pale and shaken, leaned over a console. We need to know what this ship is really capable of. If they come again with full force. He trailed off, his eyes drawn to an old frost-covered panel at the back of the command deck. It was different from the others, heavy, sealed with manual locks. What is that? Crix asked. VORX approached it, storage vault, human ships. Kept critical logs and orders there, for captains only. The AI spoke again, almost quietly. The vault contains the Defender's final mission orders. Access requires command approval. The swarm sphere that had once scanned Vorex floated forward, glowing brighter. Commander, do you authorize? Vorex hesitated for only a moment. Authorize. The locks on the vault clicked open, one by one. The heavy door groaned, releasing. A cloud of cold vapor. Inside was a single object, a rectangular black device with a faint blue light at its center. Vorex picked it up carefully. Captain's log, the AI said. Final entry recorded 214 years ago. The device activated, projecting a holographic figure into the air. 8! It was a human, a woman in battered armor. Her face pale but resolute. Her voice was calm, steady, and carried the weight of command. This is Captain Mara Juno, Earth Defense Fleet. If you are hearing this, you have found the Defender after our fall. We were the last ship in the sector hunted by the combined alien fleets. We fought and we ran. There was nowhere left to go. The crew is gone. I am the last. The image flickered. Her eyes burned with defiance. They thought humanity could be erased, but we were never just bodies. We were will. We were resistance. And as long as this ship exists, so does that will. To whoever finds this, if you are human, carry on our fight. If you are not, then you will learn what it means to be. The projection ended, leaving the deck in silence. Crix's voice was barely a whisper. She meant for the ship. To keep fighting forever, the AI confirmed. Directive is clear. Continue the war until all identified enemies are destroyed, or until humanity returns to claim its place. Vorex stared at the spot where the captain's hologram had been. Something had shifted inside him. He had seen her eyes. There was no fear in them, only certainty. The same certainty he had felt in the visions during the neural bridge. The AI's tone sharpened. Enemy fleet closing in. All weapon systems prepared. Swarm production accelerating. On the main display, the nanites could be seen outside, the whole forming into jagged armor plates and massive gun structures, changing the defender's shape into something even more dangerous. Crick stepped closer to Vorex. If we survive this, every fleet in the galaxy will know. The humans are back. Vorex didn't look away from the display and let them know. The AI's voice dropped to a deadly calm. Incoming transmission from enemy flagship. Put it through, Vorex ordered. The screen lit up with the face of Captain Dreven, the same Dreven who had demanded their surrender minutes earlier. His eyes were cold, but there was something else there now. Unease, Vorex Dreven said. You're a traitor. That ship is cursed. If you stand with it, you'll die with it. Vorex's claws tapped the arm of the captain's chair. Maybe. But I'll die fighting like a human. The transmission cut. The enemy fleet began to move. The defender turned to face them. Swarm weapons forming into shapes that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for over 2 centuries. And far above the hum of the engines, the AI whispered, almost to itself, war resumes. The enemy fleet fanned out across the void, their silver hulls glinting against the distant starlight. 7 Hunter-class warships, each designed to crush targets far larger than the Defender. But on the ancient human ship's command deck, there was no fear. The air hummed with power as the swarm crawled across the hull, reshaping armor and weapons in real time. The AI's voice cut through the silence. Swarm output at 120%. All primary guns online. Suggestion. Aggressive strike before enemy formation solidifies. Vorex's claws tapped against the arm of the chair. He studied the tactical display arcs of enemy fire, shifting shield frequencies, the gaps in their formation. We hit them before they're ready. Go for their drive cores. Make them dead in space. Confirmed, the AI replied, initiating human combat doctrine, total resistance. Outside, the swarm poured forward from the defender's prow like a tidal wave of living metal. The nanites split into hundreds of needle-like missiles, each streaking toward a separate target. When they hit, they didn't explode. They dug in, when tearing into enemy hulls like swarms of insects. On the flagship, alarms wailed as black veins spread across its surface, eating through armor, devouring weapons mounts. Enemy fleet returning. Fire, Crick shouted. The defender rolled hard to port, its thrusters roaring, the old human vessel moving with shocking agility for something its size. Enemy plasma blasts cut through the space it had occupied seconds earlier, detonating harmlessly in the void. Forward cannons, fire, Vorex commanded. The deck shuddered as beams of searing light erupted from the defender's guns. The warships buckled under the assault, shields collapsing before the swarm missiles tore it apart from the inside. The AI's tone shifted, almost amused. Enemy cohesion breaking. 2 ships attempting retreat. Block them, Vorex ordered. The swarm responded instantly, shaping into enormous spiked chains that lashed out across open space, wrapping around the fleeing ships and dragging them back into the battle zone. Their engines screamed against the pull, but the swarm tightened until their reactors overloaded and silent. Blinding bursts. On the enemy flagship, Captain Dreven's voice came through the comms again, this time ragged with fury. Vorex, you're dooming us all. That machine will turn on you. Vorex's jaw tightened. It already has, and I'm still here. We cut the channel without waiting for a reply. The AI's voice lowered to a near growl. Final enemy vessels locked. Permission to deploy full swarm saturation. Vorex didn't hesitate. Do it. For a heartbeat, space was still. Then the defender erupted, releasing the full swarm in a black storm that blotted out the stars. The cloud surged toward the last of the enemy ships, wrapping them completely. From the command deck, the crew could only see faint glimmers of red light inside the shifting mass before the ships simply came apart. Silence returned. No enemy. Signals remained. Only drifting wreckage. Crick stared at the display in disbelief. We just destroyed a fleet that should have overpowered us in minutes. They underestimated us, Vorex said. He turned to the AI status. Ship integrity restored to 83%, the AI reported. Swarm reserves at 40%. Enemy communication bursts detected. They transmitted before destruction. News will spread. Vorax stood, looking out at the field of debris. Good. Let it spread. Let them all know the human's last weapon still fights. The AI's tone softened, almost approving. Then the next phase begins. Humanity's war was never meant to be fought from one ship alone. Crix glanced at Vorax. Next phase? What do you mean? On the main display, a new star chart appeared. Dozens of red-marked locations scattered across the galaxy. These are hidden caches. The AI explained. Weapons, data, and technology seeded by DEE. Human forces before the fall. We will find them. And we will remind the galaxy why humanity was feared. Vorax watched the map. His decision already made. Set course for the nearest cache. The defender turned in the darkness, its swarm already repairing the scars from battle. Behind them, the wreckage of the Karvath fleet drifted as silent. Proof the humans were back, and their war had only just begun. The defender moved through deep space like a shadow, its swarm crawling constantly over the hull, sealing scars from the last battle. The starfield ahead shimmered with cold, distant light, but Vorax's eyes were fixed on the map the AI had, revealed dozens of red marks scattered across the galaxy, each representing a hidden human cache. The nearest one lay on the edge of an abandoned system. No planets, no stations, no active beacons, just a dying sun and a single frozen moon orbiting in silence. Crix studied the scans with a frown. I'm not picking up any energy signatures. If there's a cache here, it's been dead for centuries. AI replied, its tone sharp. Human technology rarely advertises itself. Approach coordinates 27/6. As they neared the frozen moon, something strange appeared on the display. A massive crater. Perfectly circular, its surface unnaturally smooth. At the center, buried beneath layers of ice, a faint geometric shape gleamed. That's no rock. Vorax muttered. The defender descended toward the moon's surface. Swarm units, detached from the hull, drilling into the ice with precision. Steam rose in great clouds as the frozen crust gave way, revealing an entrance, or a black triangular gateway carved directly into the moon itself. Open it, Vorax. Ordered, the swarm flowed over the surface of the gate, searching for a way in. For a moment nothing happened, then the entire structure shuddered, and the gate split down the middle, opening with a deep, resonating boom. Beyond lay a dark tunnel, wide enough for the defender to enter. The ship slid forward, its lights piercing the black. Inside, the walls were lined with metallic ribs, each etched with human writing and symbols as they reached the end of the tunnel. The space widened into a vast chamber, and there it was, a ship. Smaller than the defender, but unmistakably human in design. Sleek, predatory, its surface polished like a blade. Around it floated dozens of smaller craft, drones, weapons, platforms, and sealed cargo containers marked with old human insignia. Crix's voice was barely a whisper. It's a whole armory. The AI's tone was unreadable. This is the Vigilance. A strike frigate, last of the Alpha class. Crew capacity, 40. Weapon systems, classified. It has been waiting 200 years for activation. Stepped forward on the command deck, staring at the sleek ship on the view screen. Can we power it up? The AI hesitated for the first time. We can. But I caution you, Commander. The Vigilance was designed for one purpose only. Planetary. Elimination. Crix's eyes widened. You mean, yes? The AI cut in? It can wipe entire worlds in ours. Vorax considered the words, the weight of the weapon before them. His people, the ones who had tried to destroy the ship, would never stop hunting them. And now, they had a weapon that could turn the war from survival to domination. Bring it online, Vorax said finally. The swarm surged forward, flowing into the Vigilance's hull. Lights flickered on across its surface, then steadied into a deadly white glow. Systems hummed to life, and a deep, thrumming vibration filled the air. The AI's voice returned, deeper now, almost layered. The Vigilance is awake. its command. Protocols will bind only to you, Commander. Your crew will need to learn to operate human warcraft, the way humans did. Before Vorex could answer, alarms sounded across the Defender. Crix checked the sensors. Multiple warp signatures, closing fast. On the tactical display, 5 ships appeared. None from Vorex's people. These were strangers, their designs. Jagged and spiked, painted with the colors of a pirate fleet. The AI's tone sharpened. They've been tracking the Defender. They want the cash. They will not leave alive. Vorex's gaze shifted to the Vigilance. Then it's time to see what this ship can do. The pirate fleet dropped out of warp in a storm of jagged holes and burning engines, their ships spreading into an attack pattern like wolves circling prey. On the Defender's command deck, red battle lights flashed, and the hum of the swarm deepened into a low growl. Vorex stood at the center, his eyes fixed on the display. The Vigilance floated beside them, sleek black hull gleaming under the chamber's dim light, every line of it promising violence. Swarm tendrils still connected the 2 ships, feeding the smaller vessel with power and data. Enemy vessels. Charging weapons, Crix reported, his voice tight. They're not here to talk. The AI's voice was cold, precise. Standard pirate tactics. Overwhelm defenses. Board target, strip resources. They do not realize the nature of their prey. Vorex allowed himself the smallest grin. Then let's educate them. The Defender surged forward, its cannons roaring to life. Beams of searing light punched through the nearest pirate ship, ripping it apart before it could even fire. The Vigilance followed like a hunting blade, weaving between enemy ships with impossible agility. Activating primary weapon system, the AI announced. Target acquisition locked. On the Vigilance's hull, panels slid open, revealing a long, slender barrel that began to glow with blinding white energy. In one smooth motion, it fired a beam so intense it left a burning trail through. The Void, the pirate flagship, didn't explode. It simply vanished, reduced to vapor in an instant. The comms exploded with panicked voices from the remaining ships. Crix stared at the readouts. One shot, and it erased them. Planetary elimination power, the AI said. On a smaller scale. The swarm swirled outward, forming vast, spiked nets that wrapped around 2 fleeing pirate frigates, dragging them back toward the Vigilance. Vorex gave the order, and the smaller ship's secondary guns tore them apart. Only 1 pirate vessel remained. It tried to run, engines burning at maximum, but the Defender was already on it. The ancient warship matched its speed, slid alongside, and unleashed a broadside that split the ship in 2. Silence returned to the system. Debris drifted like snow in the darkness. Crix broke the quiet. If the pirates were tracking us, others will too. This cache won't stay secret for long, good Vorex said, his voice calm but sharp. Let them come. The AI's tone carried something almost like satisfaction. The Vigilance is now fully integrated into fleet systems. More caches await. With each, our power will grow. Humanity's shadow will spread once more. Crix looked uneasy. And when the galaxy realizes the humans are back, Vorex stepped toward the forward viewport, staring into the endless dark. They'll fear us the same way they did before. And this time, they'll have reason. The AI's voice lowered, almost like a whisper carried through steel. Commander, you are no longer Carvath. You are human in all but blood, and humanity never stops. The Defender and the Vigilance turned together, engines burning bright as they left the frozen moon behind. Somewhere in the darkness, more caches waited. More weapons. More battles, and across the galaxy, whispers were already spreading through military channels, pirate dens, and shadow markets of a ghost ship, an unstoppable swarm, and the return of a species that had once defied the universe itself. The humans were gone. Now they were coming back.